Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Inside the Orange podcast. Firstly, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has watched the first two episodes. If you haven't caught them yet, I'll leave a link in the description so you can find them and enjoy them whenever you want to. Now in today's episode, I'm interviewing an old friend, someone who worked for me many years ago, and I've kept in touch with him, and he's had quite an amazing progressive career at the same time as having some personal difficulties in his personal life. This guy is the amazingly funny Luke Bromley, and he tells his story today, which is fantastic, and I just want everyone to hear it. So, let's get into the episode. So joining me today is an old friend of mine, a guy called Luke Bromley. He's had a very interesting career and personal life kind of interjecting at the same time. He's an amazing guy. We chat so much on LinkedIn, and he's here today. So Luke, welcome to the Inside the Orange podcast. How was your day today?
Yeah, really good, buddy. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it wasn't too bad, mate. Absolutely hectic at the minute. It's like the pandemic hasn't slowed us down at all. If anything, it's picked up. But I think that was half expected with the building trade at the minute. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to kind of get on here and tell my story. So
brilliant. So yeah, no time like the present then. So tell us a little bit about yourself from the start.
Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting. Obviously, I know you from a long time ago, from my retail days when I was a young man, kind of properly entering the work world. And I just kind of want to tell a little bit about my story today in terms of the journey I've been from that person who was maybe a little bit of a disruptive influence to kind of the person I am today and kind of what got me there. And I think the main thing for me today is to kind of translate to people that actually, although everything can seem great with people, that's not always the case. And yeah, I want to kind of talk through my journey through Travis Perkins and kind of how they've developed me and turned me into the manager that I am today. So I'd love to go through all that with you.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you've said there that we've obviously known each other a long time. You worked with me. You were someone in my team who worked for me. So the one thing that I always like to kind of think about is when you see someone you know, and when you've got a kind of friendship with someone, you're kind of a lot harder on yourself, and you think, right, how was I? And the one thing that always comes to my mind is when you did work for me, as much as I've known you a long time, I didn't actually know the real you. So just tell us a little bit about what you were going through and what was it like internally from you? Because if it's not unfair to say, you kind of put on a show, didn't you? You did kind of put on a show when you worked for me. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, definitely, I say so. So a little bit about me and my kind of upbringing and kind of, so basically, I was never a career-driven person, and I wasn't. And I think you kind of got that from me when we met. I was very much a happy-go-lucky. Do you know what? I come to work, I'd sing, I'd dance, I'd slide around the aisles, I'd have a laugh. But work wasn't really my passion. It wasn't really my life. It wasn't really something that had a massive influence over me. And it was quite strange because I'd come from a background with my stepdad, who I will call my dad for the rest of this video, just for he's been there since I was 3. But my stepdad was he was a massive influence in terms of the kind of work he churned out, and it was kind of strange. I lived in this family where my dad wasn't really there, and kind of when he wasn't great, and that wasn't my whole life. It kind of spiraled out of control. We had a really good relationship pre my kind of teen years, and it was strange. I couldn't figure out why it had all kind of gone wrong. Why all of a sudden this guy I had this amazing relationship, who was my absolute hero, come into my life. It all kind of just fallen apart, and I couldn't get my head around that. And I think I naturally become quite disruptive from that. Later to kind of find out that it was down to drug abuse and things like that kind of sent shockwaves through me a little bit and changed our relationship and changed how I saw him. And I think it's quite interesting. It's kind of when you try and explain it to people, that kind of relationship, going from somebody that you absolutely love and absolutely adore, and then you don't quite like them anymore, but you still love them to pieces. It's a really difficult relationship to explain. But unfortunately, he wasn't the most supporting and most positive person. So a lot of my kind of teenage life, it was things like, you're stupid, you're not going to amount to nothing, you're a waster, you're disruptive to the family. And look, to a certain degree, maybe, but is that the kind of things you say to a young kid? Probably not. I think I'd kind of accepted that, especially when me and you worked together. I think I'd accepted that was how I was, and that was me as a person, and I'd kind of almost fitted into that character, where actually it was a case of, I'm just going to be a laugh, but I'm actually not going to try and do anything with my life. I'm just going to coast by and see how that gets me, because I am stupid. I can't do this and I can't do that. And I think a lot of things, when especially, and I don't know if you ever picked up on it as in me as a person, but sometimes it would quite be like, I was great when everything was great, but when everything was bad, I was the most negative person in the world.
Fair comment. Yeah.
And and I think, I kind of, I went through a little bit of a journey, kind of going through jobs and it not quite working out. And then I think I got to Travis, and I kind of told my dad about my first promotion and was like, I've gone in as a management apprentice, Dad. Like, I want to try and pursue a similar path to you. I want to try and get in the same thing as you do. Like, and he didn't even look at me. He literally didn't even look up from his laptop, and kind of turned around and said, "I'll tell you what, come back and talk to me when you earn the same kind of money that I earn." And weirdly, I think it just sent a shockwave through me, where I was like, "Do you know what? Then, if that's the case, let's go for it. That's what I want to do. I want to be successful. I want to come back and talk to you when I am as successful as you." And I think that's kind of what sent me on the journey that I'm on now. Obviously things change, so yeah.
No, and I mean, that takes some real honesty to sit there and say that. And I can't think, like, to have, and again, I think you've described before, you were really, you wanted your dad to see you as something, didn't you? You did want that. How was it to feel when you just got shunned? How did that make you feel? You said you wanted to go and show him wrong, but surely that took some time in yourself to kind of get over that. That's not an easy thing to hear. Like,
so I think, like, there's a couple stories there. So unfortunately, my mum is the most lovely person in the world. Like, she's so sweet, so smiley, so bubbly. And my mum's always built me up where my dad has knocked me down.
Yeah.
And I think, she has her faults, as everyone does, but my mum has supported me in a roundabout way for a lot of my life, even when she hasn't been able to be there because of the situation with my dad. Yeah. Unfortunately, I kind of, I told you a little bit about that similar time was when I'd met my biological dad for the first time at 21. Yeah. And unfortunately, he's an alcoholic that couldn't engage with me, we met and everything was absolutely brilliant. And then I think him and his family kind of decided that actually they weren't looking to take on that kind of commitment. They didn't want me to be as a part of their life. So I kind of ran away from my dad's kind of disapproval and kind of, actually, no, you're not going to do it, to kind of find comfort and shelter elsewhere in my biological dad, thinking that would be the answer. And it was just almost like double bubble. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. It was like doubling down on the same kind of heartache and the same kind of pain. And I really did. I fell into a really bad place, I think, after that, and kind of thought, no, do you know what I do? I do really want to try and prove everybody wrong, and prove that I am worth something, and that, everything they've said or everything they feel isn't the case. So yeah, it just kind of was what it was. But I think it was more out of determination to prove people wrong at that point. And I count myself so very lucky that was the mindset that I had. But that wasn't always the case, and that hasn't always been the case. Even through my TP journey, I've had downs. So it's not, everyone looks at me, I think, a little bit and kind of says, positive guy, full of energy, bubbly, likes a laugh, and thinks that my trajectory's been like that the whole time. It's not. Like, it's not been, it never will be like that for anybody. You're super lucky if that is the case, that you go and your trajectory is just a straight line and you fly to the top and it's brilliant. I think my big thing, like I said, is for people to understand that that's not always going to be the case. You're not always going to get everything right first time. Just have that little bit of self-belief and that little bit of faith that there is something in you that you can kind of, summon, pull on, that when the times get a little bit harder. So, yeah.
I want to say a couple of bits. So on that, so the one thing that I remember when I started doing a podcast, and you've been a great supporter, you've really kind of helped me start this. When people go, oh mate, good, keep going, it's lovely, it really is lovely. And I said to you, well, come on, in a kind of tongue in cheek way. I'd seen how you were getting on. I thought, yeah, come and talk on the podcast. Let's hear about your story. And you went, okay, I'll send you my story. And then you sent me your story, and my God, I mean, it was an emotional read. I remember sitting there reading it, and Zoe, my wife, was like, "You're right," and I said, "I can't believe I'm reading this story about someone that I know, yet it's so heartbreaking to go through a biological dad that's having his problems with you, you know, how that didn't work with you, and then you've got your stepdad problems, and you know how everything was, and it was so hard to read, knowing how I had been with you. And I kind of take a responsibility and go, do you know what? This is something that the Inside the Orange is about. When I said about self-awareness and things, I've talked about that in the past. That made me so self-aware that actually, my God, what, you know, where was I when all this was going on? And the other point I wanted to say that I struggled. I had some issues with mental health before our kind of paths went different directions. I had some issues. But one thing I've remembered, and I've kept it to this day, is you were, and there were times where we might have been two North magnets going, you know, repelling each other. You know, we got on, but there was times that we didn't. But you were one of the first people to message me, and you said, I don't know if you appreciate me messaging you, and then you just put this most beautiful message to me about that, you know, you've been a great guy, you know, you've been amazing for me and all this. And when you're feeling like that, to get people like that to go, I've got your back, mate, I thank you wholeheartedly for that, because you never expect that. And when it does get there, and especially now knowing what you were going through, how much that message was. So again, thank you for that. That's incredible. I just wanted to say that.
No, like I said, I think it's one of those things in life, and genuinely, I think it's a 50-50 split almost. When something bad or traumatic happens to you growing up, when, you know, you either choose to treat people how you were treated, or you choose to treat people how you don't want to be, like how you wanted to be treated. Yeah. And I think that's for me. I think that's a massive thing where I kind of look at that and I say, look, I'm no angel, I'm no saint, but actually I can appreciate when people are doing nice things. I can appreciate it when, you know, somebody goes out of their way and teaches me something or shows me something. And I think a lot of that does come from a little bit of, I wasn't really nurtured in that way. You know, my mum was, like I said, absolutely brilliant, caring woman, but actually the male figure, the role model that I wanted in my life to kind of lead me forward and kind of push me. And I think a lot of that come from, you know, my dad coming into my life being this absolute alpha male that I never was, and kind of coming in, football, geezers, lads, beers and all that lot. And I kind of, you know, I was like, we had such a good relationship. I was like, right, okay, you know, this is the guy that I want to be like. So then all of a sudden in my teenage years to kind of turn around and go, nah, actually not for me. You've had your chance. You're not going to do anything. I'm like, well, what do I do now? And then I kind of looked at it and said, actually, is this my role model? Is this the person that I want to be like? Is this the way that I want to treat people? And seeing what my mum went through, and seeing, you know, not the physical abuse with my mum, but the mental abuse of you're fat, you're ugly, you know, all the, you know, it absolutely killed me to see the person that my mum had become. She was such a confident North London girl, loud as anything, as you like, and such a laugh to be around. To kind of seeing her go back in her shell and kind of, you know, not have any friends, not be going out, be stuck in the house. And especially I noticed it more, I think, when I moved away. When I kind of moved in, you know, I left at 16 and started living with friends and with family where I could find, you know, a couch or a bed that would have me. And I think a thing I'd like to quickly say is thank you to those people, because I was going through such a transitional period in my life from 16 onwards, where, you know, you caught me at some of that, where it's like, actually, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just collecting money to pay you, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just getting by. I'm not trying to create any life for myself. I'm not trying to create any opportunity. I'm just trying to get by as I can, and I'm not going about it particularly well either. But seeing what she went through and seeing the kind of her wilt away and not be the person that I'd known my whole life was horrible. And I think that kind of spurred me on even more, is actually, do you know what? Like, I want to make sure that my mum always has the option. If my mum wants to leave, she will have a house. Like, and I'll make sure she has a house, and I'll make sure she's looked after, and I'll make sure that I can afford that. You know, she doesn't need my help. She's gone out now, and she's kind of becoming her own woman again. But obviously we'll get into that. But, you know, it's lovely to see. But I'd always wanted to care for her and make sure that she never felt terrible about herself. And I think I feel like that about everybody. I don't set out in a day to make people feel terrible. I don't want any of my colleagues or any of my team to come in and feel actually Luke doesn't appreciate me or care about me, because I've sat and I've witnessed the person I love feel like that, and it's horrible. So I think that's a big part of me now as a leader, is actually making sure that nobody feels like that. All right, you might not always feel we get on at the best of times, and you might feel sometimes I'm harsh or whatever that might look like, but you'll always feel appreciated, and you'll always know when you've done a good job, because I'll make sure that I tell you.
That's really good. One of the things, again, going back to what you sent me, your document you sent me when you said that I want to tell my story, was just how much of a kind of parallel your work life was once you got into Travis Perkins and once you've started on your career that you're doing now. That seemed to be on an upward trajectory. You said about the upward trajectory, but your personal life was going the other way. How did you balance that? How did you achieve and survive at the same time?
So I think it's a bit of a funny one, really, because you wouldn't really think it would go. Normally, when one falls off, the other falls off as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it does. It all goes hand in hand, and it all coincides. And I think, people will look at my Travis Perkins journey, and I know I talk about things and I am proud of it. 5 promotions in 5 years. Coming from a management apprentice, being nominated by the team to be warehouse manager at PTS and stuff like that. Not my boss, just everyone saying, actually, why don't you make Luke the warehouse manager? We get on with him. He does a good job, and things like that were real confidence boosters. So I think, for me, one thing I will say thank you to TP for massively is a case of I went into work and I felt appreciated. I went into work and I felt valued. And they were the things that I didn't feel when I was kind of with my dad, or, I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel valued. But I did at Travis when I first joined, and I thought, I absolutely loved it. I think, the first day they took us to, I think it's Silverstone, the racetrack, and they took us there, and it's this huge apprenticeship day, and they really made a big song and dance about it. And I sat down, and the CEO comes out of the company, and he basically says, I was sitting where you were, 40 odd years ago or 50 odd years ago, however long that is. So, the sky's the limit, basically. Go do what you want to do. And I think that for me absolutely hit home, where I turned around and I went, right, like, there's no ceiling here. There's no ceiling. Like, you can go as high as you want to go, as long as you're willing to put the work in. And I think that really resonated with me. I really thought, okay, this is the one then. This is the opportunity. But, the journey wasn't 100% straightforward with Travis. It has its ups and downs. Like I said to you, everyone thinks that a trajectory, everyone probably looks at my trajectory and thinks it's been that. When it hasn't, it's been up, down, up, down, up, down. And I've had fall-offs here. So just to kind of run you through my Travis history. So I literally started at PTS as an apprentice, got promoted there. And my boss, Barry, who is an absolutely amazing guy, who gave me the opportunity in the first place, kind of turned around to me and said, it's kind of dead man's shoes here, mate. Like, we've got an ABM. He's not really going anywhere. He does a great job. So there's not probably going to be an opportunity for you as quick as you want it. And he supported me so much in terms of looking for that next role and deciding what I wanted to do after that. And he knew that actually I've got loftier ambitions than just doing what I'm doing right now. I want to kick on to that next stage. And I think I'll never forget, I sat in an apprenticeship meeting when I was in my first year, I think, and they asked you to write your ambition. They said, what do you want to do? You've got 2 years of your apprenticeship. What do you want to do by the end of your 2 years? And I turned around and I said, I want to be an assistant branch manager. And everyone kind of scoffed at it. They kind of laughed. I was like, assistant branch manager, have a day off. And I was a little bit like, is that unreasonable? Like, does that seem unreasonable? And it was kind of like, everyone was just saying, I want to be an asset to my branch. I want to help. But I was like, no, like, I want to be a big influence. I want to be a big player. I want to change the way that we do things. I want to change the way we work. And I kind of bent over backwards to make sure that happened. So I was at PTS in Watford. And then I moved over to Travis Perkins in Berkhamsted. And I did not enjoy my time there, to be quite honest with you. I struggled with TP. I struggled moving over. It was I went from this big PTS with a huge team, loads of different people, absolutely manic, to a pretty quiet TP. And it was a smaller branch, smaller team, very well-established team. And I think I struggled to kind of bed myself in there a little bit. I think I loved the experience I picked up there, getting to work at Travis and getting to experience that side of the PLC. But it just didn't click. And I was kind of like, right, I said to my RD at the time, I want to be an ABM by the end of this year of my apprenticeship. And he turned around and he said, nah, you're trying to run before you can walk. And I kind of said, like, I really don't feel like I am. Like, I really feel like I've got more to give. I really feel like, right, I don't know everything, and I've never gone into a job claiming that I do. But what I do say is that actually I'm hungry, I'm determined, and whatever you need me to learn, I will learn as quickly as I need to learn it to do the job. And he kind of said, look, you've got your timescales all wrong here, mate. What you're looking at probably is like a 2-3 year journey until you're ready to be an assistant branch manager. But at that point, it was in my head that that's what I was going to do, and no one was going to tell me any different. So I started to apply for jobs within TP Group, and I went for an assistant branch manager role at Keyline Bedford, and I went for a branch manager's role. Don't ask me why, but I went for a branch manager's role with Wix. And people probably think you're mad. Like, you've not even been an ABM, you're applying for a branch manager's role. And I was like, I reckon I can do it. I don't know why. Like, there was just this kind of blind faith. Like, I just reckon I can do it. Like, I don't know what there is. I think I can do this. And I went for the interview, and I couldn't believe I'd got it. I literally could not believe I even got the interview for this manager's job. And I was with a guy called Andy, who's now the head of apprenticeships. And he was so good. Like, he was an absolute lifesaver. He was brilliant. And he sat down with me, and I think he knew, you could see in my eyes, I was green as you like. Like, I'd never done a job like this before, but I was full of enthusiasm and a will and a want to, and a desire to kind of get on. And he did. He sat down and he interviewed me, and he turned around and he was like, asking me all these questions, and showed me around the shop and showed me all the different things and the different ways of life and how it would work. And then he kind of pulled me at the end of it, and he went, I think we both know you're a little bit too soon for this. And I was like, yeah, 100%. I've had a great time, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So, he was absolutely brilliant. And he, Andy, bless him, did try and sort me out. He did sort me out another ABM's role, but I had already accepted it with Bedford. By the time me and Andy had kind of gone our separate ways, I'd already accepted a role. So, but that was brilliant for me. I think that spoke massive volumes, especially about Andy as a person, and about Travis Perkins, because it was a case of this guy's come out of nowhere and just applied for a role, and where I think a lot of people would tell you to go away, you're not ready. Actually, he humoured me and thought, actually, there's a lesson to learn here. There's a little bit of learning he can do as a person. There's a little bit of development here for him to see, and we'll see how he does. We'll see how he gets on, and I love that. Like, so I ended up accepting Bedford and moving to Keyline. No Saturdays was an absolute dream. So went fully midweek. But it was brilliant. I went into civils, and the kind of RD at the time, when I told him at Travis that I said I was leaving, he was kind of like, are you sure you want to go? Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? Civils, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And it was very much seed of doubt. It was like, are you sure you're not going to mess this up? Are you sure you're not going to put yourself out of a job? And, I honestly don't particularly know where sometimes I get the confidence / arrogance from to do things like that. But I was kind of like, no one's going to tell. I've had somebody tell me for 10 years I'm not going to be able to do something. Like, I'm going to go do it. And if I fail, I'll learn from it. If I succeed, then we move on to the next step. And that's very much what I try and live with, that pretense. But I moved to Bedford and did a year there. And Jason, who was my manager at the time, was absolutely brilliant. Took so much time, took so much interest in me as a person, gave me projects, let me develop stuff within the branch. And we changed the culture of the branch. Bedford was the old stinky branch that had been there for years, that nobody cared about anymore. Not from a Keyline perspective, but from actually in terms of how it looked aesthetically. The yard team, in terms of how they felt about safety standards and things like that, had slipped. And we went in there and we changed it. And it was brilliant to kind of get that time with Jason. And then after a year, weirdly, it's the first time it's ever happened to me where someone's gone to me and gone, I absolutely love you. The best thing since sliced bread, but I think you should go for a promotion now. And I was kind of sitting there going, what? Like, and he's like, yeah, like the promotion's come up. I think you should go for it. And I was looking at him almost like confused. I was like, normally when someone's good, you want to keep them around. Like, you don't want to shift them out the door. So for me, it was quite an alien mindset. I was a bit like, all right, like, I'll go for it. And I went for a job, again, that was probably a little bit above my station and a little bit too soon for me, I think. But it opened so many doors. So I was so grateful that he pushed me forward. I went for the interview and I got to the last stage and I couldn't believe it, because it was for like a big branch. And I couldn't believe it. And it put me on everyone's radar in terms of, I started getting opportunities arise and I started getting noticed by people in the senior team. Actually, this guy's got a bit about him. This guy's interested. He wants to get on. He interviews well. He's got ideas. He's got vision. He wants to do all these different things. and it kind of made people stand up and take notice. So, before I carry on, that's just one quick side note for anybody who's looking to kind of, get on the ladder. Take an opportunity, take a risk, because worst case is if you've got that much faith in yourself, something will come out of it, something good, because it might not be the job, but it might be a development opportunity, or it might be a chance later down the line where they go, actually, you're interested in that kind of role. This role's come up and I think you're going to be great for it. So never, ever let yourself get in your head and don't go for something because you think you're not ready. I always chuck my hat in the ring for something, even if I think there's no chance in hell, just because it's a chance to open a dialogue with somebody you might not normally speak to. So after that, the opportunity came knocking, and it was not a good fit. To be honest with you, I moved to Northampton, and it was to a flagship branch, and I went in as the assistant branch manager, and it just didn't click. It just nothing about it clicked for me. And I'd moved away from home into a flat share in town centre, which just did. My car got broken into. It was rough, and I don't mean that in a horrible way. Sorry, Northampton. The rest of the town is lovely, but where I was living was not the case. My car got broken into, and I'm sitting there with a smashed window. I'll never forget it. In classic, kind of early 20s style, I literally pulled a rubble sack over the window. I never even bothered getting it fixed. I was like, they're only going to break into it again. So I never even got it fixed. So I'm driving around with a car with one window, doing a job that I did not enjoy. I'd moved, and it was kind of going, this is where the trajectory kind of stopped there, and it started going there and going back down. And I was having a lot of meetings with people saying, Luke, you're not yourself anymore. You've fallen off. Luke, what's going on? Your behaviour's not the same. Luke, you don't seem interested. And it wasn't even that I don't think I felt interested. It's that I felt like I was sinking, but I didn't want to let people know that I was sinking. So it was just almost stunned silence. And I think because at that moment in my time, I didn't have a direct contact, a role model, someone that I could talk to kind of go to and liaise. And all the people that I did know couldn't do anything about it anyway. So, things were kind of going horribly wrong at Northampton, and I thought this was meant to be the next step up. And, that's nothing to Northampton. It's an absolutely amazing branch, smashing out absolutely amazing numbers, but it was just one of those opportunities that just didn't fit, maybe the wrong time, maybe that's what it looked like, and you will get those. But then this is the second part of that kind of lesson that you learn is, I walked out of Northampton with my tail between my legs. I remember sitting there with my regional director at the time, Paul, and I said to him, this ain't working for me, mate. Like, I fully accept that my career's probably done now because you've put me on this pedestal. I've not achieved what you thought I was going to achieve. So I assume that my career's done. And I got into that mindset. And I think something that I'd poured so much time and so much heart into, 3 years of my life at that point, I'm sitting there saying, this is me, like this is everything that I want and everything I want to do, and it's not worked out. I got blinkered vision. I couldn't say that I couldn't see anything else other than that I was failing and that I was falling short. So I think I left there, and and this is the other part of it where I left there, tail between my legs, went back to Bedford into the warm embrace of Jason, and kind of said, look, this ain't worked out for me, mate. I'm back, but the switch side of that is Jason had replaced me. So I wasn't the ABM anymore. Jason had a new guy that he was training up with, Alex, who was absolutely brilliant. And my own fault, maybe. I trained Alex up and given the big thumbs up when I'd left, thinking that I was never coming back. And there was this young man in my chair doing an amazing job trying to learn how to do the role. And I'll be honest with you, Richard, man, I was depressed. I'd come back, I'd fallen, not just kind of from grace, I'd fallen out of my role, I'd fallen out of my team, I'd not achieved what I'd wanted to achieve, and I thought my career was done. I had started getting stress headaches, I started, I had no car, no money, I wasn't living anywhere, so I kept moving, it kept costing me money. So I was kind of, again, back on couches and things like that, which for me just kind of really drove me into a low. Like, I'm sitting there and I remember crying my eyes out one night thinking, I don't really want to be here anymore. Like, and that wasn't just, in terms of my mate's house, that was just here, like, full stop. I just didn't want to be here. Like, anything had to be better than this. And I count myself lucky that I have the friends that I do, and I have the family that I do, from my mum's side and stuff like that kind of picked me back up and kind of said, come on, mate, like, you can do a bit better than that. And I went on to antidepressants for a while. And, there's no shame in that whatsoever. I think there can be a bit of a stigma and a bit of a taboo about doing that. But I went onto it, and, the thing was, I went back into Bedford and I sat in the corner and I kept real quiet and I kind of collected myself and I got myself together, and I looked at it and I said, I'm not going to come in here and I'm not going to hinder Alex's growth. I'm not going to come in here. I'm not going to be a disruption. You know, if Alex is next up on the pedestal, if Alex is next up in line, I'm going to help him. And that's when I kind of really decided as myself that I need to grow up. If Alex wants to get on, I'm going to support him. And if he gets that opportunity that I didn't, it's because he's the better person for it. So I kind of settled back in and said, actually, do you know what? My career is probably over now. But actually, I'm going to help this young man achieve what he wants to achieve and do what he wants to do with his Keyline career. So I started doing some work with him, teaching him things that I was doing as an assistant manager, giving him some projects to work on, like saying, actually, do you know what? These are things that I never did. So crack on. You know, these are the list of jobs that Jason wants doing. Gold stars all around if you nail them. You know, crack on with that. And I did it. And then a moment just kind of hit for me where I was like, I'm back. Like, I'm back. I feel good. I feel ready. I feel ready to take that next challenge. I feel like actually this was just a blip. This was just a moment in my life that I don't even think about now, really, apart from talking to you about it now. I don't look back at that moment and I don't say, well, you know, like I don't linger on it. I sit there and say, actually, do you know what? That was a failure. I learned from it. I came away. I become a better person. I helped develop someone else. And I became a better person for it. So I think, you know, after that, I then decided to apply for another manager's role, probably even more out there than the last one that I did. And it was for opening the brand new branch in Bodmin. And it's a brand new branch that they were opening. I'd never run a branch, let alone opened a branch. So I didn't really know what went in. You probably got more experience of opening a branch than I have. So obviously I haven't done it. But, you know, I could have reflected on that really looking at it, but I didn't. You know, and I applied for this job and I thought there's no chance in hell. And I'll never forget, I sat down and Adam Franklin, who was absolutely amazing for me last year as a boss and as a mentor, he turned around to me in the interview. And about 4 questions in, he asked me about Northampton and my face just drained. I honestly was like, oh my God, the smell follows you. Like, do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. When the smell from your mistakes has followed you, you know, you're not going to escape that. This is it. And I just looked at him really honestly and I told him what happened. And I told him that I fell short. And I told him that actually there's multiple things I could have done better. But I've learned from that and I want to learn from that and I want to kick on. And luckily, you know, Adam kind of saw the hunger and the desire and thought, do you know what, let's take a punt. And I got the phone call and I still remember to this day, my boss, like Jason, answered the call and he was like, it's about the Bodmin job. And I was like nervous. I thought, I'm going to get told no, I'm going to get told no, I'm going to get told no. And then the second he went, oh, look, we'd like to offer you it. I just couldn't stop grinning. I couldn't stop grinning. I couldn't believe that I'd got my opportunity to be a branch manager after kind of falling short and then coming back, let alone open a brand new branch that, you know, all eyes were on it because it was big expectations. And I kind of thought, you know, you do get those odd little moments in your head on the build up. Am I going to be able to do this? Was this the right call? Kind of pre-game nerves, if you will. But, you know, I'm so glad that I did. And I think the journey I've been on this year has been absolutely huge. So, yeah, that's been great.
I mean, it's just amazing to listen to you. I mean, I'm going to say, because we're friends, that is the longest anyone spoke about me asking them a question. So well done for that, Luke.
I can bang on. It's my curse, unfortunately.
No, look, that's fine. And do you know what? Listening to you there's a few things that stick out in my mind. When it's going good, my God, I mean, you could sell ice to the Eskimos. When it's going good, mate, you literally, your buzz is so there. And at the same time, when you talk about Northampton, you can hear it in your voice. There's so much kind of energy. You can feel it. When things go well, you can hear it. And when things go bad, you can hear it. But so in terms of the people you had around you, how important was it that they nurtured you? You said there was a bit of confidence, arrogance, but how important was it to have the guys around you that you've just spoke so highly about? How important was that?
I think, do you know, it's one of those things. And I think, you know, I had it recently said, and I kind of took offense to it in a weird way. And I don't really know why I did, but I call it almost like self-made confidence. So in terms of, I shouldn't have it. I shouldn't be confident. I shouldn't be the way I am because of the upbringing that I had and kind of that. And I think someone's kind of said to me, I don't really think you're as confident as you say you are. And I think I took that really personally because I was like, I've worked really hard to make this. Like, I worked really hard to make this confidence. So for you to not think that I am, but then at the same time, that makes me think, am I as confident as I think I am? If that's rocked me, am I really as confident as I think I am? And I think, what I will say is having those people around you that love that part of you, that love your kind of personality, love that you come into a room and want to just light it up and chat to everybody and have a laugh and make sure that, but at the same time want to achieve big things, it's amazing. It's amazing to have somebody turn around and go, great job. And I thrive off that. It's almost like, the way it's almost like like a nitrous boost. Like that's what it feels like. It's almost of a case of I'm going at a speed. And like you said, when it's good, it's good. But then somebody will come up, pat me on the back and say, great job. And then I'm off again. And that's almost like I almost call it my fuel. Do you know what I mean? When I get told it's a good job, or when I have people supporting me and kind of saying, actually, you're going to go where you need to go, or I'm going to sort out this for you, or I'm going to help you. It's great. And I think from the other side of it, I've created that dynamic with my team now where actually, we give that feedback to each other, and I want to know if I'm not doing something right. I want to know if I'm falling short. I want to know if I'm not there for you. I want to know how you're feeling. And I think I've become like that with other people as well, where I'm kind of like, actually, it's not about just building me up, because I've got to build other people up, and doing that makes me feel great at the same time. So I think the old kind of thing about managers kind of sometimes putting people down to build themselves up, that's never been me. Like, I'd never ever trip anybody up on anyone's journey to get to where I need to get to. But having that support network is such a crucial thing in life as well as work. So I think for me, I want to be that for people as much as I want people to be that for me. So I think that, the guys that I speak about in my career, I couldn't thank them enough. I really couldn't, because I think where other people could have maybe knocked me back or kind of maybe not pushed me to go as hard as I went, I might have caved, and I might have done, I might have turned around and gone, oh, okay. But those early ones, and people like Barry, when I did get the knockbacks, I thought, well, Barry liked me, so obviously there's something there. And then that kind of got me through that section. And then when the knockback from Northampton happened, I had Jason. And then when the knockback in terms of my confidence, and kind of what went on this year, I had Adam. So anything where I was like doubting myself, anything where I didn't feel confident, I had those people around me to kind of just give me that little, go on, keep going the way you're going, because you're going to land eventually. It's going to land for you. Just keep going the way you're going. And sometimes you do need that. Like, I think it's really underestimated, actually, that little hand on the shoulder, or the little pat on the back, how appreciated that actually is across the board. And I think sometimes managers don't do it enough. So massive influences in my career.
Brilliant. And you just mentioned there a little bit that you said it's something you engage with your team about that. So one of the questions I've got for you is, how much of the vulnerability, now I'm not saying about everything that's happened in your personal life, but how much vulnerability do you show to your team? And if you do, or if you don't, why is it important?
So I think for me, unfortunately, so we do this thing called insights test, basically, which tells you a little bit about your personality. I don't know if you've ever heard about them, but you're basically color coded into personality groups, and it tells you a bit about you, who you are as a person. And it's freaky. Like, if anyone gets a chance to do it, because you read it back and you go, have they been putting cameras in my bedroom and watching me? Because it's so accurate. It's terrifying in terms of what you are as a personality, what makes you tick, what parts of your personality might rub somebody else up the wrong way, kind of thing. So you do stuff like that. And the thing that come back from mine is that you have a conscious kind of behavior and you have an unconscious behavior. And mine is exactly the same on both scales. So I'm almost bipolar, because I'm too, I'm happy and I'm 100 mile an hour. I'm happy-go-lucky, but I'm 100 mile an hour. But it's like that constantly. So in terms of, even when I'm on my wind down, when I'm at home, that's me as a person. I'm all over the gaff, but I want to be the best at everything I do. And I think, I think a lot of it, I used to be a lot more of I'd get on with people, I'd have a relationship with people. But sometimes I think I wouldn't want to get too engaged. I think I'd always get a little bit conscious about, it's work. What if that comes back to bite me? And I think a few times I had kind of been bitten by it. But then I thought, actually, is that me, giving away too much information about myself that I shouldn't really be anyway? Or, is this the right thing to do? And I started going through this real kind of crisis of confidence in terms of how I should be around people. Is it a case of being professional all the time? Is it a case of, having a laugh with the boys and being one of them? And for me, I think it's just that right mix. Like, it's that right mix. And I think, I count myself so lucky with the team that I've built at Bodmin. So lucky. So, with everything that's gone on in my life, I come into this new role. I lent on the guys so heavily. Their involvement, I wanted them involved in everything. You are what, we are Bodmin. I don't say it's my show. It's not me. We are Bodmin. Anyone in that team leaves, it's a massive loss. And that's the way I look at it. It's not the Luke Bromley show. I know I get a lot of coverage and I get a lot of time, but actually, I did a little bit before Christmas about my guys, actually what they do, what they've achieved this year, what they've done that's made Bodmin the success it is. I think, you look at it, so, I'll kind of flick back into a little bit of another story here. So, I come in, I got the guys involved, and they were, it was very much, I led from the front with charisma and a smile on my face, and everything's great. And they're making all the right decisions. Everyone's involved. And the branch was in its early days, and I just accepted this role. And I got a phone call after Christmas, and my dad had passed away. And I kind of just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. My nan had been ill, so I'd thought it was my nan. And then to kind of hear, your dad's gone, I was like, right. Okay. So I come home, and the guys held it up for me massively, kept the branch ticking over, kept the branch going in the right direction. And they honestly couldn't have been more supportive in that whole time. And I got back, and then my nan passed away. So I was straight back down again. And I was gone. I was gone for like a month. I was gone for a month. And the amount of stress and sadness that I was feeling, because I was like, I want to be here for my mum. I want to be here for my siblings. I want to help. Adam's given me this amazing opportunity, and I'm not there delivering what he wants me to be delivering. No expectation from Adam to come back, but I feel like I'm letting him down. I feel like he's given me this opportunity to deliver something for him and to prove everyone wrong that said I couldn't quite do that role, and I'm not there. And I think at that point, you don't really have a choice. You don't have a choice whether you're going to show vulnerability or not. It's there. Yeah. It's there. It's there for all to see, clear as day. And do you know what? I did some major learning in that time. Major learning in terms of my team. And I mean this, and this might sound corny and it might sound cheesy, whatever it sounds like. My team are my family. And that's the way I look at that. When stuff was down for me, they picked it up. They carried it on, knowing that actually we don't want to let Luke down. We don't want Luke to come down and the sales have dropped, or we don't want Luke to come back and be stressed and worried about that. The text messages, the constant checking in, making sure I'm okay. So do I regret treating my guys like their family and their friends? No, not for a minute. Really? Not for a minute. There's guys in my team that have gone through stuff this year that have been sitting on my couch for over a cup of tea, and we've spoken about it and talked it out, because I care about them as people as much as they care about me as people. So they know most things that go on in my life, maybe not every single detail, because there's, certain things you keep to yourself, but I try and tell them as much about me as they want to hear. And as much as, I think that it's quite easy to lock yourself in an office and quite easy to be disengaged from your staff. But I think, those guys have done so much for me this year. And I count myself so lucky that actually everybody cares. Everybody cares about how that project looks. Everybody cares about what happens there. And it's not even on like, well, I might lose my job, because that's never even come into their mindset. The mindset is, let's graft. If we graft and keep churning the numbers out, no one's losing their job. That's not how it's happening, even through a pandemic. So those guys have been absolute lifesavers, and I wouldn't for a second change anything or any way that I've approached them or any way I've dealt with it, because now we have complete transparency, complete honesty. My office is always open. Come to me if you want a training or you want development, you come and talk to me about it and we'll get that sorted. Don't even worry about it. You need to take time off, something's going on in your life, I'll support you with that. And those guys, they go off, they sort out what they need to sort out in their life, and then they come back and then they work as hard as they've ever worked. And I'm such a big thing about, happy people are productive people, and that is 100% the thing. If you support people, they will support you, and that is how it all works. Sometimes it's so easy to be an island and turn around and say, I'm going to do everything myself. This is the Luke Bromley show. I'm going to do everything. But actually, it's not. If I didn't turn up tomorrow, that branch would still run. I have an amazing team in there. It would still run. Do you know what I mean? And I find that such an amazing thing, that actually when my opportunity comes up to go and do the next thing that I want, that there is, 9 guys in there that are absolutely superb. And I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud that I hired those people. And I'm so proud that I hired people on, how interested they were in the project and how engaged they were when I was talking to them, rather than their skill sets. We went in there with a green team. Only one guy worked in civils. One guy out of the whole team. And we're doing record years, record numbers still now. So, no, I think 100% show yourself to your team and let them get to know you as a person, because that's what makes you different to everybody else. So.
Brilliant. I'm gonna disagree with something. Disagree, and I don't normally disagree, but you said earlier on in this interview, you said that you were arrogant, right? Now, the conversation, the answer to that question you've just given me has given me shivers down my spine, has shown me not one glimpse of arrogance, because you've just said no man is an island, it's not your show. So I'm going to disagree with you. There's no arrogance there at all. Sometimes you have to give yourself the opportunity to go and do something. Yeah. The opportunity to take a punt. And again, I talk from doing a podcast. This podcast took me 3 months to press play because I didn't have any confidence to go, no one's going to want to hear it. But I wouldn't be sitting here now interviewing you if I didn't do that. So I totally disagree that you call yourself arrogant. But sometimes when you haven't got that nurture, when you haven't got that thing in your home life, you've got to give yourself the chance. So don't, I'm going to stand there that your answer to that question was absolutely incredible. And I really want people, if people are sitting there and going, and they find this podcast and they think, how do I get my team to work? How do I get my team to work for me? Listen to that answer. Listen to what this man just said, because every single thing that just come out of his mouth says, my team work when I'm not even there because I've got their back and they've got my back. So again, I salute you 100% to that, mate. So thank you for that. That is brilliant. 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No worries. So now you talked a bit there. And I mean, I'm so proud to have you as a friend, to have you as someone who has worked with me, and worked with me in the past. And I share so much of the Keyline stuff that you put out. And I'm like, they're going to think I want a job in a minute. You know what I mean? but that stuff about showing your team before Christmas is brilliant. And as I say, you make me inspired, and I want to share it, because if someone out there goes, I don't really believe in my company anymore, mate, you're flying a flag for a company. If that's how they work, then hats off to them as well. 100%.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like I said, is I'm very much about singing from the rooftops when people do amazing things. And I think, my thing is I absolutely adore the guys that I work with, and I do. And I think my biggest skill set, if I had one, is engaging with people. I do care about people. When I ask how your weekend was, I genuinely care. I'm not just asking as a standard Monday morning question. I'm asking you because actually I'm interested to know what you got up to at the weekend, and I do want to hear about that. I think it's important to make sure that we acknowledge when people are doing the right thing. And it might be something as stupid as just saying every day, thank you for what you've done today. Cheers for doing me that little favor, mate. I really appreciate that. And I think it's quite easy to get into a habit that actually, and I've heard it almost said before, well, when you come to work, that's your job. Well, yeah, it is your job, but you don't necessarily have to do a good one. And I'm sure everybody will have employees that they think you could probably do a little bit better. So actually, when somebody does put it out of the bag and somebody does do their job and do their job well, I do think it's important to praise. I do think it's important to acknowledge that and to keep pushing that behaviour and keep pushing that attitude forward. And you find it's infectious. Actually, other people want to get involved. Other people want to achieve something as much as that other person's just achieved. And I do all sorts of mad stuff for the guys. Like we did a quiz night before Christmas. So I couldn't take them out. I felt horrible. I thought, you've absolutely grafted all year. So I tell you what, you boys kick back. I'll buy the curry and the beers and I'll host the quiz. And we'll have a bit of a laugh around Christmas time. I played the kazoo. Don't even get me started on that. It's horrible. You probably see it all over my LinkedIn. But, I do, and if the guys can stand there and have a laugh at my expense for an hour or 2 hours, and it takes their mind off of everything that's going on at the minute with COVID and all the other hardships that people have going on that comes with that from a mental health standpoint, I'll do that. I'll stand and play the kazoo here for 3 hours if that's what you need. But preferably not. If there's another alternative, I'll take something else. But no, I find that so important to make sure that people do feel appreciated.
That's brilliant. Again, I mean, your work life is just amazing. And as I say, I'm so proud to watch you do that and live through that. I've got, I want to just speak about personal again. And I asked you a question when we spoke on the phone, when we were organising this. I asked you a question. Now, you said quite in that you lost your dad and your nan at a very similar time. Which one, the question I'm going to ask her, which one was hardest? Which one was hit you worst?
It's two very different kinds of pain, to be honest with you. My nan was kind of my saving grace. She was kind of the level-headed person. Actually, every time that my dad raised his hand to me or my dad hollered abuse at me, that my nan would kind of tell him to shut up and tell me that wasn't the case, and tell me that actually don't listen to him, he's an idiot. And I think she was such a strong woman and she had such a big influence in my life and the person that I've become, that that was almost like losing my mum. And my mum, like I said, absolutely adore my mum. She we're going to get onto my mum in a little bit, but my nan was my second mum, and there's no two ways about it. Like the amount of time she put into me, I spent every summer with her. Like I ended up living with her for a while when she had a stroke because I wanted to care for her and make sure that she was okay. All right, yep, my cooking skills were, I thought it was fancy putting hot dogs in beans, but the thing was she ate it and she was just happy that somebody had cooked her dinner. And 14, 13-year-old me thought I was a gourmet chef, but she was just so happy to have somebody just doing it. And she weren't much better. When it was her go, it was a microwave meal. So we kind of just matched each other. We were very similar personality. So I think my nan, for me, when I first found out she was ill, I drove back without even thinking about it. I turned around to Adam, I was like, I've got to go, mate. Like, I'm really sorry. So I'd come back pre-December, I think it was. Yeah, pre-December, run to the hospital. And I remember she wrapped her arms around me and was like, you came? And I was like, don't even think for a second that I wouldn't. Like, do you know what I mean? Not for a second. And I think at that time, I was hurting a lot because we were getting told by doctors she weren't going to make it. She weren't going to make it. And I think what I found even harder at that time is me and my dad weren't talking. And I'd asked to stay at the family house and he'd kind of said no. So I was trying to see my nan, but I didn't have anywhere to stay. So I was kind of bouncing again between people's houses, trying to be there for my nan for, a week, just to make sure I had all the time with her that I could, because she was such a big part of my life. My dad, it's another story altogether in terms of the kind of grief and the pain. And I think to sit and say that he was an absolute monster for the entirety of my life would be a lie. And it would be, my younger years, he was amazing. He was, had so much time for me, especially coming in. And I commend anybody that takes on somebody else's child and runs with that and raises them as their own, because that is, a mammoth task in itself. And I think if you can go into that and you're the kind of person that's got that kind of love in your heart that you can love someone else's kid, then fair play to you. And he was that guy at the start. I couldn't even say that he wasn't. Things didn't go right. Things didn't go his way. And he fell into a hole. He fell into a hole and started doing drugs. And that's when it fell apart for us. And I think it's hard because you have those memories of that guy that you love, you adore, you look up to. And that kind of blends into the other time where you're kind of going, I still love you. I still, you're still kind of my role model in a weird way. But actually, I don't like you. I don't want to be like you. You're kind of a role model that I never want to be like. So it's kind of strange. And I think, I talk a little bit to Adam during kind of one of my reviews, and I kind of said, I think I've lost my way a little bit here. And he said, what do you mean? I come back after everything had happened. The guys had kept the ship afloat, like I'd said, and I'd kind of just got comfortable. I was just coasting. I'd gone into lockdown straight after. I had 1 week back at work and then went into lockdown. So it was just me, my thoughts, and that was it. And it was a strange feeling. So like, nobody could speak at his funeral. So I kind of took it and I was like, right, okay, I'll do it. And I stood up and I spoke at his funeral and I saw all these friends and that. And it was just a real confusing time all round, because you're talking about all these good times, but actually what's more fresh in your mind is the bad stuff. And I basically kind of come back and I crumbled. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's best for me. I don't know, what do I want to do with my career? Have I lost my way, kind of thing? So, I settled back in and I turned around to Adam. I said, I was doing this to prove to him that I was a somebody. I was doing this to prove to him that I could do all the things that he said I couldn't do. And now we're here. Who am I doing it for? What am I doing it? What's the point in this? Like, I don't get that moment where I get to look back and say, you were wrong. I don't get that moment. And that was what I was building up to my whole life. That moment where I looked him dead in his eye and said, right, you want to talk about money? Let's talk about money. You want to talk about how successful you are? Let's talk about how successful you are. And that was the moment that I was working towards. And actually, quite strangely, I kind of had this moment of true realization. Actually, was I working for the wrong reasons? Probably a little bit. Did I come back a different person? Did I learn to appreciate my team a bit more? Did I learn to appreciate the people around me? Did I learn to appreciate my support network a lot more? Yeah, 100%. I kind of sat there and said, actually, this whole time, this is about money. This is about money. And that's all it was about. And maybe some people saw through that. Maybe some people thought, actually, no, this isn't the guy we want to promote. It's just about money. But it was about more than that. It was about proving myself. It was about, being the person that I wanted to be. And I kind of looked at it and I said, why do I do this job? Why do I do this job? And then I thought, because I love the people I work with, because I love developing people, because I love hearing success stories now. And I do. And I'm very much about my whole kind of mentality changed, where I was like, actually, do you know what? I ain't even got to know you. I don't even have to know you. But if I can see you're doing something well, or I can see you're succeeding in your life, then I'm going to applaud you for that. I'm going to let you know that I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the hard work you're putting in. And I recognize that. And you might not even want my recognition, but I'm going to give you it anyway. So, and I don't mean it in a horrible way. It's just, like I said to you, those pats on the back that I loved throughout my career, I want to give that to other people. And like I said, someone I saw on LinkedIn today posted a plastics order. I went, how much was that worth, mate? And he said, oh, quite a bit. I said, well, fair play to you and the team. I don't really know him, and I looked at it and I kind of said, why are we not, why do we not celebrate every single win that somebody gets? Why do we not do that? Because it's so infectious, and those endorphins go around for everyone. You turn around and you say, good job, mate. Everyone feels good about it after. Nothing bad comes from it. So what does it hurt to say it?
Yeah.
So it was two very different kinds of pains, I think. One was kind of a pain of never getting that moment and kind of a little bit of a loss of identity. And I think the other one, like I said, was what I imagined to be as close as it gets to losing a parent, because for me, it was almost my support network within my family a little bit, where my mum had kind of been under my dad's clutches for a long time. I kind of lost that a little bit with her, not through her fault, because domestic abuse and mental abuse is a totally different ballgame for anybody that ever gets to experience that. Never wish it on anyone. But my nan being that support network that I did have, to lose that was, I can't even begin to explain. I feel like between the two of them and then going into lockdown for a month, it broke me, I think. And then weirdly, getting that time, you almost talk yourself back through the other side, because there's nothing else to think about or nothing else to do. So I found myself going for walks. I found myself getting out. I found myself, you're going to think I'm having a midlife crisis, but I found myself kind of deciding that I wanted to do the things that I'd never got to do or never done because I never saw them through. So guitar, I picked up guitar. Thought, actually, do you know what? I've always wanted to learn guitar. I'm going to pick up guitar. Skateboarding at the age of 28. Decided, I'm going to go down the skate park. I'm going to buy a skateboard. Don't know why. I just decided life is too short. I've always wanted to do it. I'm going to go do it. And it might seem stupid and it might seem ridiculous, but you know what? Puts a smile on my face. So, I encourage anyone, like, don't ever feel like you're too old or something's passed in your life and you can't do it. Pick it up and run with it. Worst case, you're going to break both your wrists, like it's inevitable. It's going to happen to me. But yeah, it's two different types of pain, mate. It's two different types of pain, to be honest with you.
I get that. And I was going to ask you a question, but I don't really feel like asking. I'll tell you what it was, but it was, do you forgive your dad? But I don't want to ask that, because you've mentioned there a bit of issues with, domestic abuse with your mum, and I don't think that's a fair question. But talk to me about your mum. Talk to me about your relationship with your mum now.
It's interesting, isn't it? So it's one of those where, me and my mum are two peas in a pod. Like we act exactly the same, and I think we've always grown up right. Like I've always kind of annoyed her probably more than anyone, because we are so similar. We're both quite stubborn people at times, but honestly, like, her personality, her character is just one in a million. Like, she's one of those people, I think, where you just meet her and you're like, you want to keep talking to her, and she's just a buzz and she's a laugh. And I think she's quite similar to me in the sense where she does genuinely care about people she talks to.
It did sound familiar.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but she genuinely does. She cares about people. She puts a lot of time. She'd always go that extra mile and do those nice little gestures for people. So I think, what she went through, I couldn't even begin to understand. And I think a lot of the time when I was growing up, I felt frustrated. I felt really frustrated with it. I was like, why aren't you stepping in here? Why aren't you protecting me? Why aren't you making the call and getting rid? I'm your son. Why are you not doing that? And I couldn't begin to even comprehend the kind of abuse and the kind of things that getting told something every single day was doing to her. You can't see your friend. You can't go outside. Snapping his fingers at her and telling her to bring dinner in and stuff like that. And I look at that and I think, my mum's not a dog. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? My mum's not a dog, but she put up with it for a long time. And it's such a strange thing to see somebody go from such a positive, happy character to just the shell of the person they used to be, because they've almost been trained in the nicest possible way to not act like themselves anymore. They've almost been bullied out of being themselves. Mm-hmm. So they don't know who to be. So they're almost like a blank vessel that's kind of subservient to the person that's bullying them. And it's a weird thing. And I kind of, I said to you in that letter that I sent you that, it was strange. I went through my whole life kind of thinking, You know, my dad is my hero. My dad is my idol. My dad is who I wanted to be. My dad's that guy. He's the, like I said, the alpha male, 6'5", walks into a room, booming voice. Everyone pays attention. And I was looking at him kind of going like, actually, do you know what? All the great, you know, very much everything I did do, he would take credit for. It'd be like, yeah, well, he got that from me. He picked that up from me. He did. He got that from me. And I sat there and I thought about it. And I thought, no, I didn't. I got that from my mum. You know, I got that from my mum. And, you know, my ability to stand up for what is wrong, for what is right, you know, that's my mum. My ability to kind of do the right thing and care about people, that's my mum. My people, you know, my ability to be who I am and be a bubbly personality and want other people to feel happy and cared about, that's my mum. That's not my dad. So it's quite interesting that at 29, I kind of turned around and went, my dad ain't my hero. My mum's been this whole time. And I think it's quite easy as a male to kind of turn around and go, actually, the male in the family is my role model. And that's quite easy to do that and look at that and go, actually, that's the path I want to follow. But, you know, the strength that it must have taken her to go through that and come out the other side while supporting a family. Like I said, you know, my thing is, my dad was on 70, 80 grand a year, right? The kids never had anything. Everything went in his pocket. The kids never had anything. They needed new shoes. They didn't get it. My brother was walking around with shoes with holes in. You know, my mum went to work a minimum wage job in a supermarket and she was paying for everything. She was the one putting the clothes on my brother's back. She was the one who was making sure the kids were fed. And it was all out of that money that was going. So I look at that and I say, that's where I get my work ethic from. That's where I get my mentality to do the right thing from. This is the person. So, you know, like I said, don't look at it sometimes with such blinkered vision and kind of say, actually, my dad is going to be my role model because he's a man and I'm a man. Actually, my mum is a woman. She's a very strong woman. And if I'm even half the person that she is, you know, in 10, 20 years time, I'll count myself a very lucky man. And seeing her come out the other side now and seeing that smile come back on her face and seeing, you know, her personality come out and you know, all right, maybe not having friends around because of COVID, but being sociable again and talking to people again is amazing. And what a tough year for her. Do you know what I mean? What a tough year to lose her mum and her husband. And you know, I looked around and she was just propping everything up. She's just doing everything. She organised the funeral. She makes sure the kids are learning. She's raising 3 kids on her own now. And, you know, what an amazing thing to be doing. What an amazing woman to go through all of that. And, you know, her first thing is, what we're going to do about the kids. My dad left money. She took none of it. All went to the kids. And I was like, fair play. Do you know what I mean? Like, fair play to you. Like, she's so caring. She's so lovely. And I think it's amazing to see her coming out the other side now, wanting to pursue a career, wanting to pursue a life, wanting to build her own name and do her own thing after being told that she's not anything, she's worthless for years. So 100%, the way I look at it now is completely changed for me. Like, my mum is my hero. There's no 2 ways around it. No one comes close. So as far as I'm concerned, like I said, if I can be half the person she is, I'm going all right.
And do you know what? She'd be proud of you. Like, listening to you there, it's just amazing. Like, I can't, you know, she's got to be proud of you. And I know, you know, I don't know your mum, but just listen to that. Listen to what you've become in the 8 years, you know, that I've known you. And again, there's a big gap in the middle of those years, but in terms of who I knew at 22 to the, you know, the near 30. Sorry, Luke, I've got to say, you're pushing 30 now, boy. You know, it's amazing. It is. It makes me proud. So as your mum, God, I can't only imagine. So let's talk about the future. What's the future for you? What you're doing? What's going on? And yeah.
Nah, do you know what? Right now, I think, you know, I've got another year at Bodmin at least, and I'm looking to, you know, we did £3 million in our first year, which during a pandemic is amazing. Hit all our targets, which is brilliant. Lofty ambitions. I want to take it to 8 million, and some might say that's a jump, but actually that's what they're projecting it to be at year 5, and that's what I want to do before I go. Actually, do you know what? Don't worry about your 5 years. I'll try and do it in 2. And you know, the team are right behind us and we're driving in the right direction. Our customer base is absolutely brilliant. Great guys as well. So, you know, it's brilliant when you kind of got, you know, staff that want it to happen, customers that are appreciating the service that you're giving them, it's almost like a recipe for success. And I'm so grateful that is the case with some amazing projects coming up this year. I think long term, I think I'm a long way off it, but I wouldn't mind Nick Roberts' chairs one day as CEO, but who knows? I'm very much a kind of, shoot for the stars, and if you fall, you land on a cloud kind of thing. So, who knows what's next? It's a long journey to get there, but I know that, the team I've got around me in terms of senior team, they're going to give me every opportunity to achieve what I want to achieve and are pushing me in the right direction to do that. So I can't really knock them, absolutely amazing. And even I had kind of one of my reviews for my performance today, and it was very much like, right, let's get you involved in some project work. Let's get you looking at what's next. What's that next big step for you? And I'd love to step into the regional senior team. It'd be amazing. So yeah, we'll see what that looks like.
Okay. And I've got to say it, and I think you've been sitting there sweating about this question, but and I see you've learning the guitar now. So I think 10 years ago, there's a smile coming on your face. We made a pact that maybe in 20 years' time we become a certain band from the 80s, Toto. We might become a tribute act for him. Is that still on the cards? Am I still in your life there, mate?
You know what, mate? Like I've always wanted to be like an old man tribute band. So I am completely. As soon as I get to the age where I can grow a mullet and it's acceptable, I'm there. Like, don't even ask me twice. I'll be there, guitar in hand, singing "Hold the Line," and don't worry about that. So yeah. Of course, it's still on.
Do you know what? When we were organising this, and I sent you the questions, and I wrote that question at the end: are we still going to be in the Toto tribute backs? And I thought you read that and thought he's not going to ask that. I'm going to get that question.
I still love it. Hammering Toto down the aisles of a night time. Who doesn't? So yeah, 100%, mate. I would still be down when we're old boys and I can grow my mullet out. If I've still got hair by that point, I'll grow my mullet out. If not, it's going to be a tape-on mullet. But yeah, no, definitely, mate.
Brilliant. Look, as I've said before, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Jenny. Thank you for coming to talk to us about it today. And, you've covered so much for people that might just be listening. How do I get my team to engage? How do I deal with this stuff in my life? Do you know what I mean? It's just such an amazing balance that you're showing and you're doing. And, I thank you so much. So again, bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on today and talking to us.
Nah, it's not a problem, mate. And like I said, I'll sign off on the final note to anybody who is having a little bit of self-doubt. You will have something to offer. No matter what it is, no matter how big or little, you will have something to offer. So, make sure that you try and believe in yourself as much as you can. And if opportunities arise, just go for them, and if, like I said, if you don't get it, you might get something else. So, yeah.
Great.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard.
No worries. Thanks for listening to this episode. If this podcast is something you enjoy, then please subscribe to the podcasts and make sure you like and share so more people can hear our message. Remember, if you have any questions for me or my guests, you can get in touch via our website, insidetheorange.co.uk, on Twitter @OrangeWatts, on Instagram @InsideTheOrange, or on Facebook on the Inside the Orange podcast. And finally, there's the email of insidethisorange@gmail.com. All these links will be available in the description. Thanks for listening. Goodbye and take care.